I'm April Danann and we are in West Cork, Ireland, and today we're going to talk about sauerkraut, which is, for the most part, fermented cabbage-ish. When it was introduced to me, it sounded so complicated and it terrified me. So in the beginning, I remember making sauerkraut, which really simply is fermented cabbage. Like, it's not difficult. It's been made for thousands of years that we know of. And I thought it was so complicated and there were so many different recipes. And then of course the smell. So when you open this up and you go, does that smell right? I don't know. And then I'd be afraid to taste it. I'd be afraid. And so much of it went out. I had the healthiest goats in the whole country because they were eating sauerkraut. I kept tossing it out going, oh, I'm not sure. So today I'm going to show you a couple of little tricks, things that I've figured out over time, but also that there's probably very little that can go wrong. If you see mold on anything fermented, obviously something's gone wrong. Toss it, be on the safe side. But if you're not seeing mold, everything looks healthy, that just still looks like vegetables, and actually dip a finger in, it's not going to hurt. Just taste and see what you think. But sauerkraut, I think we tend to make it more complicated because one of the things you'll notice is we're not going to be using a SCOBY or a mother. So we're going to rely on the bacteria and the organisms that are living on these are organic vegetables, but still they're full of organisms, and we're going to rely on them to do the work for us. So we're not guiding it. So this is where it can be a little more tricky, but honestly, it is so straightforward and so simple. So I'll walk you right through it. One of the things I want to show you, you're going to need a steel bowl. You can use a ceramic bowl, but to be honest, you're going to be using something, and it can be just a glass jar, to tamp down your vegetables. So a steel bowl might be handy, or something really strong. You're going to need a little bit of salt. You don't have to use much salt. Salt will, again, encourage certain organisms to grow and discourage other organisms. So it's really important. So today I've got carrots. Got an onion. I love fermented onion. I've got a white cabbage. So I'm just going to jump right in here, and I'll just talk and chat as I'm chopping vegetables. So I'm just going to peel the onion. Now, one of the things that you're going to have to remember, and you're going to watch as the other trusty thing I forgot was a jar. So this time, as opposed to the kombucha, remember with kombucha we used a cloth cover. So we don't want to use a cloth cover. We want airtight on this. So even like this, all right, airtight with a seal. So make sure your seal is intact. This is an anaerobic process as opposed to aerobic. We don't want oxygen introduced. We want the vegetables to be in the liquid, submerged, and no oxygen. So these types of jars are really important. And then I'm going to get back to my onion here and just peel my onion. We're only going to use a tiny amount. You can use onion, you don't have to. I like it. You can use garlic, you can use fennel, juniper berry, any number of things there. But one of the little things I've figured out is you're only going to use a tiny amount. If you're making a small amount of sauerkraut, you can put this in whole, or you can leave it, chop it. We're only going to use a small amount for one reason. The strongest flavor will be completely overpowering. It really will take over your ferment. So you want your stronger flavor to just be a little bit. If you're going to use garlic, use 1 clove. Fennel, same sort of thing. Just use a few, just not a lot. Peel the carrots. You can chop these, you can slice them, you can grate them, or what I like to do is kind of all of the above. So I'm going to top and tail them, the carrots. All right. And then I'm going to grate one of them. This is really straightforward. Just grate your carrot. I like sauerkraut that's full of textures. Grate some, do different styles of cutting. It doesn't matter. It will all ferment in the end. It's all going to go into your bowl here. And this little piece here, we can just slice it up. And then we can keep going. These are organic carrots, so you don't even really need to peel them if you didn't want to. I kind of peel them because I don't know, it's a habit probably more than anything, but you don't have to. And this one here, I'm just going to slice it up. a little bit. There we are. Just slice it into thinnish kind of slices. Throw those in our bowl here with our onion. And again, just a little bit. The carrot will kind of sweeten it up. Beetroot is also really nice to do. And then our cabbage. So you're going to have a look at our cabbage and see the outer leaves. Some of these are a little bit soft and a little bit mushy. So we're going to peel off the outer leaves. We don't need those at the minute. Take off another one just to get down to the nice clean leaves in under. If it looks dirty or soiled, wash it, rinse it. It's not going to affect anything. So just make sure your cabbage, your food looks clean, and this one looks fine. And just cut it into sections here. And this is where you can use your grater, or like I like to do, just slice it up and dice, slice and dice. Just keep chopping until you get your desired sizes. And this can be done with a machine. So if you have a food processor, throw the whole thing in the food processor on a coarse setting. And we're just going to put our cabbage in there and then chop up a little bit more. You can do the whole thing. You're going to want to discard the stem. The woody part of it is more difficult to ferment. So again, we've got our cabbage going in here. We'll just mix it up a little bit. And what I do is I take a little bit of salt, and often at this point you can have your full bowl, put a sprinkle of salt on there, and then put a towel over top and leave it, and the salt will kind of work its way through and start to draw out some of the liquid, and it does the work for you. Now, if you don't have time to do that, it's nice to leave it overnight if you can. You get your handy little, I don't know what to call this, it's just a little cabbage pusher, and you can actually start to just sort of beat your vegetables here into submission and just gently pound them down. Now, I've seen people do this for 5, 10, 15 minutes, nearly an hour, and just stand there and just beat their cabbage. Honestly, like when I've done this, I never even had one of these until about a couple of years ago. So for the first few years, I didn't do any of this. I massaged the cabbage. So I would use my hands and massage the salt through. I would often leave it for 24 hours and let it slightly wilt. And I didn't do any of that. I find this a little bit of fun. So this is nice. So you can so you can do any number of things. It's all right. Like there's no real wrong way. Perhaps this is the most correct way to do your sauerkraut. All right. And you can stand here for as long as you want. And eventually what'll start to happen through the salt and this action is juices will start to come out of your vegetables. Or you can completely cheat, which is what I usually do. So you can stand there and beat your vegetables, or is take them and say, okay, we've beat our vegetables up. We're happy with them. Now we're going to stuff them into a jar. Okay, like this. They're nice and mixed. Their salt is kind of uniformly gone through. Okay, so we've got our vegetables in there. And you want to remember how I said this is anaerobic. We don't want oxygen. Oxygen is kind of the enemy of the organisms that we want to grow here. So we're just pushing this down a little bit. And then this is my cheat number 1. Apple cider vinegar that I make myself. And I take, now, and any apple cider vinegar will do, perhaps any vinegar will do, but certainly apple cider vinegar. 2 or 3 tablespoons, even in a bigger jar, 2 or 3 tablespoons is plenty. And one of the reasons I figured this out after a number of years when I said like it would, I believed it wasn't correct, or the end result wasn't as desirable as I wanted. So what I'm doing with the apple cider vinegar is I'm already changing the pH. I'm altering the pH of the ferment, and I'm encouraging it to grow certain organisms so that you remember, you're the master, you're in charge. The other cheat is I'm going to add fresh well water. So this is non-treated water. You don't have to add water, you don't have to do any of this, but this is just what I find simpler. Okay, so I've got plenty of water in there. You can also add liquid from your other ferments or from something from the shops. And then that's under. We can do one more little trick. So I put a twist of pepper as well. All of it works to alter and discourage anything nasty from growing. So you're ensured that you're going to get a really good ferment. Remember those outer cabbage leaves, okay? As long as they're not dirty and not rotten or moldy, okay? You take your cabbage leaves and you can push in here, all right? Like even an onion, put it in there to form a seal and keep your vegetables under the liquid. You see how that pushes it down? Put it somewhere cool. You can put it somewhere dark as well, it doesn't matter, but not in direct sunlight, so don't put it on a windowsill. Put it in a cool cupboard. And keep an eye on this. After 3 or 4 days, the liquid level is going to rise, so you want to make sure you have plenty of space for your liquid. And you can remove these here because they will start to get moldy. But in the meantime, keep it airtight after you remove this. Put your seal on there again. And this will make lovely sauerkraut. So after a week to 10 days, taste it and see what you think. So after a week, you've removed your cabbage there, and your ferment is ready. So now this one here was made with beetroot and red cabbage. Another thing that I might do as well is take off the top layer because it can be a little drier or it can be a little bit white. There's nothing wrong with this, but I usually scrape off the top layer and just in case it got oxidized, and I put it out in the compost or give it to the goats or whoever wants to eat it. The pony loves this. And then I will then dig in on the bottom here. And this is our ferment. What it should be like is not 100%, like not as firm as when you put it in, but not squishy, all right? So you don't want it to be squishy. If it's squishy, it's likely gone off. It's been contaminated with something. So now, one of the ways that I love this, and like I said, I've figured out over the years so many little hacks to get this into people and even into myself and to make it more palatable. Speaking as a nutritionist, a tablespoon of this, you don't need a lot. You don't need to sit and eat a full dish, even though it's delicious. But even a tablespoon on the side of your plate with your main meal every day is fantastic for your gut health. So here we are with our sauerkraut in a bowl. And what I love to do is I would just cut out little chunks of apple because I know that the kids will eat the apples. And so even if they're not eating all of the sauerkraut, they're getting the goodness of it. This works well with everything from mango to fresh blueberries, you name it. And I will make like a little fruit salad with some fruit and my sauerkraut that's once it's fermented for about 10 days or so. And this can sit in the fridge. This will keep 3 or 4 days in the fridge, like no problem. And the flavors go through everything and the apple kind of sweetens it up or any kind of fruit. You can have it colorful with mango and blueberries or you know, any kind of strawberries and stuff. Absolutely lovely. So one of the things that is really popular, certainly in the restaurants, because everybody is getting into the using sauerkraut and getting more inventive with ways, this pairs wonderfully in a sandwich. So I've had it personally on even just a burger. So if you're not into meat, even like a vegan burger, there's avocado. It pairs beautifully with avocado. So sandwiches, burgers, any kind of grilled food, it goes wonderfully on the side. And one of our favorite ways, my personal favorite way to enjoy sauerkraut is with scrambled eggs. And there it is. That's how you make sauerkraut, well, my way anyway, which is a little bit simpler, some shortcuts, and you can't go wrong. A little bit of apple cider vinegar, a little bit of salt, and you're in charge.